Hey there, welcome to the Get Up and Go Challenge, day 42 of our 40-day challenge. What the heck am I still doing here? Well, you know, once I start a challenge, I have a hard time letting go and stopping it. And I wanted to run over our SOAP framework and just give a summary of it. The SOAP framework is, I would say, the foundation of everything I do with respect to the Get Up and Go Challenge. Now, I wanted to call it the Get Up and Grow Challenge, but it was a little hokey. And Get Up and Go, because so many of us in COVID, me included, were changed and shocked and awed with all of the changes that were going on in our life, and it could be overwhelming. I don't know about y'all, but I was in a pretty good position when COVID-19 hit, and when the changes happened in March, that even I had areas and aspects of my life and the way I work and the way I interact and the people I hang out with that had to change drastically and immediately. My daughter was here, she was still working, and within 2 weeks she lost her job and was fired. They fired everybody in the organization except for about 3 people. And many organizations did that. I think we're going to see a huge flux of businesses that just shut up and go away. And guess what? That would have happened anyway. I can't remember how many businesses close every year, but it's a huge number and a huge percentage of businesses. So when something huge like COVID-19 happens and hits, it's just, and this is going to hurt some people's feelings, but it's just an excuse to fold up shop and then move on and do something different. Guess what? Those businesses probably weren't right for the people that are letting them go anyway. The businesses that are going bankrupt or going out of business, probably weren't being built on a solid foundation, and they didn't have the wherewithal to go through a two-month challenge. How many of us do? A lot of us didn't have and don't have 2 to 6 months of, because it's been 4 months now, I think, of reserve set aside that can carry us over. A reserve of anything that can carry us over for months at a time. Anyway, that's part of why I started the Get Up and Go Challenge, is I needed something to draw my attention and make sure I was moving forward every single day during a time when sometimes you just want to sit on the couch, cocoon, and watch some Netflix or Hulu or whatever streaming video challenge or TV. Hopefully you're not watching the news, because that'll suck the life right out of you, especially with COVID and all the misinformation, and then followed by all the drama and trauma in the world, then followed by the politics. It's just too much. It's really too much for us to handle, and especially if you're feeding that to your brain all freaking day long. I know people, I don't hang out with them, but they have the news going on in the background all the time, either at their place of business or at home. I'm like, that is not good for you. Put on some positive something in the background. Even positive music or some kind of music is better than propaganda and nonsense and be feeding yourself that 24/7. So let's talk about today what SOAP stands for, and I just want to summarize it. Whether we believe it or not, we all have a way of dealing with change, dealing with challenges, dealing with obstacles. And if we don't have a way that we do it on purpose, guess what happens? We do everything by default. And when we're doing things by default, sometimes we'll get good results, sometimes we'll get bad results, sometimes nothing will feel like it changed at all, or there will be no difference or no result that we notice. And I contend it's much better to be proactive and have a way that you automatically deal with stuff that comes up. Because no matter where you are, no matter who you are, no matter what in your life, stuff is going to continue to come up, right? Is there ever been a period in your life where there wasn't any change, any challenges? And guess what? Good changes can be just as challenging as bad changes. Getting married for me was a huge change. And most people think, oh, it's a positive change. But of course, a lot of it was positive, but some of it was negative. Some of it was not necessarily good for me or in my best interest. And so we need to have a way that we deal with. And I say you have a way and it becomes so automatic. It's like breathing or thinking. It just, do we think about thinking? No. Do we think about breathing consciously? No, we don't. So there's so many things, and there's many more things we do subconsciously than we ever do consciously. So if we think that we're going to consciously handle every change, handle every situation, make sure all our thoughts are positive, it's not going to happen, and we're setting ourselves up for failure, which is why I believe in having the SOAP framework installed in our subconscious so that we don't even have to think about it. Anytime a change comes up, we just deal with it. My kids were home for a week, which meant massive changes in a lot of different ways I personally do things. And that's awesome. It's a good change, right? I was so excited to see him. Haven't seen him since March. But it required me to change. If I would have had to think about everything I had to do differently consciously for them to be home for a week, it would have overwhelmed me and driven me batty, right? So instead, I fall on and have installed the SOAP framework into my being, so everything that comes up just automatically goes through SOAP and gets handled in the best way possible for me. Now, sometimes I actually, like when I'm doing a challenge like this, have to think about each of the aspects of the SOAP challenge, but for the most part, I just go through that process automatically. I've made it a habit, I've made it a way of life, and it served me really, really well. And I want you to have it in your toolbox to serve you well, too. So what is the first step in dealing with a challenge or a change? It's looking at the situation. Looking at the situation, honestly, realizing what the situation is. What is going on right now? And not going through all, and you have to come up with all the thoughts and beliefs that have gotten you there and the experiences, but not judging it as bad or good, just saying, hey, this is what happened. COVID-19 hit. This is what happened. I have no ability to change that a virus came to our country from China. It came from China, people. Wherever it came from, doesn't matter. It's like, the swine flu, all the different flus. They have a name based on, or we talk about where they came from. Doesn't matter. Who cares? The fact is it's here, and we need to, each and every one of us, figure out how we're going to handle it. How are we going to deal with the situation when it first happens and then going forward? So what is the situation? Where am I right now, and where do I want to be? Well, with respect to COVID, I knew where I was, and I know where I wanted to be. I wanted to go through the whole challenge and change, no matter what happens, virtually unscathed or better off than when it hit, right? I want to always come out of a situation in a challenge better off than I went into it. And better off might mean that I am personally stronger or better in some area and aspect of my life, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, relationships, or contribution, than I was when I went into it. Maybe when I went into COVID-19, when I went into it, I was kind of at a lower ebb with my physical well-being than I would have liked to be, because I had come off of, I had a really, really bad flu, which I sometimes suspect was COVID-19, over Christmas and New Year's. I was sick for like 2 or 3 weeks, and I had all the symptoms of COVID, but by the time I went to the doctor, they're like, we're not even going to check you for influenza A because you don't have a fever and you're past all this, and and that was before they even knew anything about COVID. So my family's like, don't say that. And I'm like, I'm telling you, I couldn't breathe. There was all these things, a super bad cough, all this stuff that supposedly is coming out about COVID. Anyway, I was really, really sick. So I was actually coming out of that, but was still at a lower ebb than I would have liked to be going into it. So what did I do during the challenge? I did several things during this time that we've had COVID. I did a health challenge. I've done a 30-day get up and go challenge. I did a 10-day get up and go challenge, and I'm doing a 40-day get up and go challenge. Why? Because part of me needs to pay attention to what's going on with me physically. During the 40-day challenge, I gave up sugar, all sugar, cut it out. No sugar. Have I eaten some spaghetti sauce and things that I know has sugar in it? Yes. Not very often, though. In the 40 days, I think twice I ate spaghetti and things like that were processed foods. But for the most part, really massively changed because I wanted to see what kind of an impact it would have. And actually yesterday I could have eaten sugar again, and I didn't even want to. I didn't have a sea salt caramel. That is progress for me. So we want to make sure we're better off. So where are we now? What is the story we're telling ourselves about the situation right now? And what is the story we want to be telling ourselves after we resolve the situation, the challenge, the change, the roadblock, the struggle, whatever we're experiencing? Then the O of SOAP, of course, stands for options, infinite possibilities. So often when we're faced with a challenge or a decision, we think we only have like 1 or 2 options or 1 or 2 choices. And the whole purpose of the O in SOAP is to remind ourselves that there are infinite possibilities. There are so many different ways that we can respond or choose not to respond or react to any given situation to get us from point A to point B, where we are now to where we want to go. And brainstorming, I'm going to tell you every single time, the quickest, easiest thing to do is just start brainstorming. Just start writing a list of, as you go throughout your day, anything and everything you could possibly do to impact your story, where you are right now, and move you toward what you want to be. Now, we could make a list of every possibility, but we don't. We only want to make a list of the things that we believe are going to move us forward, move us toward what we want. We don't want to make a list of everything, because some of the things will inadvertently, when we try them or try to implement them, will not move us toward what we want. That's our trial and error part of the A in SOAP, which is taking action. Once we make this list and we realize that there's so many different things we can do, we need to immediately do something to move us toward at least one thing on that list. I put it away, but I had a list just sitting here of one of the, here we go, let's spirit. So for spirit, here's my Post-it note with 10. Remember I said do at least 10 things, and if you can, just keep a running list of things. And I do this for, now after the 40-day challenge, I've done this for each area of my life. So here's the Post-it of spirit that I grabbed. You know, get a spiritual coach, read a book, do a workbook, take a course. These are all kind of bigger things, but if I say I'm going to take a course, all I have to do is go start looking for a course and finding the right one for me and then signing up for it. Now, I have to actually do the course. So many people believe that if I just buy something, the problem's solved. That's a trick our brain plays on us, but it's not true. We have to actually, if we buy the course, take the course. If we buy the book, we actually have to read the book and consume it, or it's as if we didn't really do anything. We can maybe trick ourselves, but we're just fooling ourselves into thinking that we're moving forward and taking action. Meditate, write it out in a journal, attend a service, listen to a podcast, or attend a webinar. So that's an example of all the different options. Now, as I add to this, I might and I will continue to add and think of different things. I actually have started a notebook, which is not sitting here, it's by my bed. I've started a notebook for all of the possibilities and options in each of these 7 areas of our life, because I want to make sure that I always have a running list, so that when I have time and energy, or if something is getting my attention because my results aren't where I want them to be in an area of my life, I have options of things I can look at and say, okay, well, what's the next thing for me to do? What's the next thing to try to keep me moving? And the P in SOAP stands for progress. Keep me moving forward, keep me making progress, because our life is all about continuous improvement and making progress. We are either spiraling up or spiraling down. I learned that in Value of the Person training at Gillette, the Gillette company, with my ex-husband and some family friends. They had a training that you could bring your spouse to, and so I was invited to that training. Excellent training, long time ago. Actually, I had a watch that was Value of the Person a long time ago, but really, really powerful training. I should look for that, because that's very appropriate in this day and age. The value of every person deals with diversity and focusing on people's strengths, all the things I'm like right up there all about. So that is our quick summary of SOAP, the SOAP model. And like I said, I automatically go through that now. I don't think about, well, what's the situation? What are the possibilities? What action am I going to take? And how am I going to continue to make progress? How can I make something a habit or a process so that it becomes automatic for me? One of those things is have that ongoing list. That is an action that you can take, each and every one of us, to just have an ongoing list of possibilities, things that we could possibly do. So that's our quick summary of the SOAP. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions about it, if you're having a hard time working through it in any area of your life, and you're having a challenge and you want me to work through it with you, just ask in the comments below. I would love to do some live, if you're brave, and you don't have to be super brave, because we can speak in more general terms, but if you're having an area of your life where you're where you're facing major challenge and you want help with it, let me coach you live through it so that you can get it resolved for you, but also so other people can learn from it. Would love to have a couple of volunteers for that. Hit me up in the comments below if you're willing to do that, and we'll set a time that we can do that. Otherwise, I will be with you tomorrow, because you know I'm not done yet with our Get Up and Go challenge. We'll do a Q&A or something tomorrow. Or maybe the top 10 biggest mistakes people make when, I hate biggest mistakes things because it focuses on the negative. Maybe it'll be the top 10 success strategies for solving and dealing with change and challenge in your life. That would be more positive. It doesn't have to always be positive. Sometimes if we look at the mistakes, we realize, oh my God, everybody else is making these same mistakes that I am, that I don't want to admit to anybody else. All right, have an amazing day, and I will, of course, be with you tomorrow. Bye. Get up and go.